Hi and welcome to JenTalks. And if this is the first time you're joining a JenTalks video, just to explain to you that each week I create about a 10-minute video giving away tips and wisdom and little nuggets of information on tools and techniques that you can do to improve your mental fitness, ease some stress or anxiety, look at maybe solutions, some coaching tools, some treatments. And the idea is that, it's free and it's accessible for anybody. So it's totally accessible from your armchair, from anywhere you are in the world. And it's my way of giving back. I actually set up Gen Talks during lockdown and I've continued it ever since. And still to this day, I meet people all the time and they tell me how much a difference the tools make to them, the videos, depending on the topics that they are. So the current series we're looking at are things called mind apples. And mind apples are just little nuggets of tools, like bite-sized tools that you can do throughout the day that can work towards your mental fitness. And one of the topics I'd like to talk about today is something called glimmers. I mentioned it in the last video that I'd be talking about this. So if you haven't watched the previous video, just to recap what a glimmer is, it's the opposite of a trigger. So, we have things that trigger us, that press our buttons, that cause us to react, that cause us maybe to feel a little bit unsettled or upset. A glimmer is the opposite. A glimmer is something that fills your heart with joy. It's a magic moment. It could be something that you do on a regular basis that you just love doing. I was talking to a group today and we were talking about the idea of taking your shoes and socks off and walking in the soil or the grass or the sand as a earthing technique. But even just from the point of view of that bringing you so much joy, for a lot of people that might bring them back to their childhood. So that would be a glimmer. A glimmer can also be a compliment from somebody, a random act of kindness, but it's when something wonderful happens in your day. And of course, there's something wonderful that happens to us most days. And a lot of the time, we're so busy firefighting and surviving the day and getting to where our next destination needs to be that we don't really take a moment to pause and savor those glimmers. And it kind of, I suppose, it leans into the gratitude, the idea that when we are savoring things that we are grateful for, a glimmer is something that we would be grateful for when we recognize it. But the idea is that when we set our radar, when we set our brain to scan for things that are wonderful in life, think of it like if you were looking at a video or a movie of your life and you were to sprinkle it with glitter. Where would the glitter fall? What part of the day would the glitter have fallen on your day? That would have created a glimmer or a little magic moment. I mean, for me, when I came home and I just had a little moment of complete and utter calm, peace and calm, and I just took a breath and went, wow, this is actually my life. It's so wonderful. I just felt in that moment just a little glimmer of joy. So that's what a glimmer actually is. Most of us let those moments pass us because we're so busy running around. And of course, that's a human endeavor. We are busy people. We're human people having a human experience on this planet. So what I would encourage you to do would be, first of all, there's two parts to this. Set your radar to look for the glimmers. So when our mind sets a focus on something, there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. It's often known as the RAS. And when we set our brain and we tell our brain that something is important, it looks out for things that we focus on. So we're looking out for danger, it'll see more danger. If we're looking out for glimmers, it'll see more glimmers. If you're looking out for news, it'll see more news. So we're going to, first part of the exercise is to set your mind to look for glimmers. So tell your mind, glimmers happen everywhere around me. I want to look out for them. I want to find the glimmers. I want to see the glimmers. I want to experience the glimmers. And if you don't like the word glimmer, change it to a word you like. You want to experience the joy. You want to experience the happiness or look, whatever word you want to put on it. As long as it is something that is making you feel good, grateful, happy, joyful, whatever you like. Okay, to use whatever language works for you is what's best for you. So set your radar to look for your daily glimmers, and then to, at each night when you get into bed, to relive them. to kind of go through your day using a lens, going back over your day in your mind and revisit the moments where you felt those joyful moments. And you don't have to revisit all of them. Obviously, you can, if you have the time to, even better, the more the better. But if you only have time to just revisit one, just take one of those moments that were joyful in the day and savor it. And what we mean by savor it is take the time to physically drop in, to go inwards and close your eyes, visualize, recall all of the visuals of that moment. So where you were, who you were with, what you were wearing, what time of the day it was, what the weather was like, recall as much detail as you can in your mind, because the more vivid it becomes in your mind, the more real it becomes. Your mind actually thinks in that moment that it's happening all over again. So you're embedding that memory in your mind, and then connect with the emotion. So whatever the emotion was that you felt at the time, if you felt really joyful, happy, relief, pride, gratitude, connect in with the emotion. And if you can savor and linger on that emotion for a moment, for as long as you can, just allow that emotion to kind of linger. It becomes even further embedded in your subconscious mind. And what happens in that moment is the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what we're recalling, imagining, or what's actually happening in our mind. It just takes the information in as if it's actually happening right now. The same when we kind of imagine something going bad, it's exactly the same. The mind thinks it's actually happening. So the more vivid, the more details and more layers of information you can give it, then the more real it becomes. So what happens in your mind with these glimmers is you start to form a belief about the world on an unconscious level, that the world is wonderful. I am so lucky. I have such a joyful life. Look at all these amazing things that happen to me. And it starts to build your belief around how wonderful you are, how wonderful your life is. And guess what? That belief becomes what we call the sure enough principle, or the self-fulfilling prophecy. When we believe the world is a wonderful place, we see the world through that lens, and we see and are made aware of more wonderful things happening. Now, does it mean that we're blind to things happening in the world? We're blind to reality? Absolutely not. Nobody wants to be blind to reality. We don't want to move into that disillusioned positivity. But what we do want to do is we want to reverse the ratio of negative thinking to positive thinking. And positive thinking, by the way, is not the rose colored glasses of, oh my God, the world is so wonderful, nothing bad happens in my world. Positive thinking is solution focused thinking. It's when you see a problem, you look for the solution, you look for a way around the problem, and you explore options to solve the problem. You cannot find your way around a problem until you see the problem. So positive thinking is not avoiding problems. It's seeing the problem, acknowledging it, and exploring the options to solve the problem. And that's what we call solution focused thinking. That's what positive thinking is, solution focused thinking. So what we're looking for then is when we set our radar in our mind, which is our reticular activating system, to look for the positives in life, which is what we're calling glimmers, then we start to see more of it. And it starts to build a belief in our subconscious mind, where all beliefs are stored in your subconscious, that the world is a nice place to be in. Good things happen to me. I am a nice person. Great things happen. Maybe you might think you're lucky. You might think you're grateful. And that lens then creates for you to see even more of that in the world and reinforces that belief. Is it magic? Does it make the world luckier or happier for you? No, it just shows you more of the stuff that you're actually missing on a daily basis when you're in that place. Because most of us are so busy firefighting through the challenges in life and the busyness of life that we miss the glimmer, we miss the magic, we miss the glitter in our own lives. And they can just be a moment of peace, or a moment of connection, or a moment of somebody letting you out in traffic. You know, there can be all these little magic moments that we really miss, and they are equally as important as all of the moments that we spend our energy on. And what happens to us in society is we get bombarded by bad news, and the mind starts to believe that the world is only a dangerous place and there's only bad things that happen. And we need to reset that in our mind. And mental fitness is the ratio of thoughts that are costing us versus thoughts that are serving us. In other words, thoughts that are really hurting us and dragging us down, which might be fearful, worrying thoughts, versus thoughts that are hopeful, optimistic, and joyful. And all we're doing is we're correcting the balance. So when we set our mind to look for the glimmers, it resets the balance, and it also builds our mental fitness. And if you want to know more about mental fitness, there's a couple more videos previous to this. You can look them up. I will be here every week talking more about it. But just for the moment, today's topic is glimmers. So think of glimmers as the opposite to triggers. You know, we're so conscious of like, oh, that really triggered me, or this, you know, whatever it might be happening in your life might cause a trigger, even if you don't use that language. So instead of looking for the triggers, let's also, alongside noticing what triggers you, because we don't want to be disillusional, we want to also notice the glimmers, what fills me up with joy and lights me up inside. So enjoy the next week. Also, top tip I'm going to leave you with for this exercise is set yourself a time scale. The mind loves a time scale. So we say, oh, we're going to do this forever and ever and ever. It's just too long. Set yourself a time scale that's realistic for you. Say to yourself, right, until the end of the week, I'm going to try this glimmer business, see what Jenny's talking about. I'm going to, till the end of the month, I'm going to try this glimmer business. Or for the next 7 days, set yourself a time scale and measure it. So measure, like if you get, say, I'm going to finish it when I get to 7. So it might take you 10 days to get to 7 days where you notice you're glimmering. Another top tip is when you're in bed at night, if you are doing the savoring exercise, sometimes I'll use a crystal or even just a pebble from the ground outside, and I'll hold it in my hand as I revisit my glimmer. And then I'll put that pebble underneath my pillow, and I feel like the energy that I'm generating goes into that and then goes into my energy field as I sleep. So it's an exercise I absolutely love. It can also be done, the savoring exercise can also be done for revisiting a challenge that you've overcome, and that's very powerful for building confidence. That's actually on a separate Gen Talk. If you type in savoring into JenTalks, you'll find that video. But for the moment, we're using glimmering, and then we're also adding the layer of savoring to the glimmering at nighttime. So it's setting your radar to look for the positives in your day, the things that bring you joy. And then if you want to add the savoring on at nighttime, you just revisit it at nighttime before you go to sleep in your bed, and linger on it with as much detail as possible. Vividness is the visualization, and then the emotion, connect with the emotion. That's a really deep part that embeds it into our subconscious mind. And then notice how different you feel, because you will feel the difference, honestly. And I'd love to hear back from you if anybody wants to connect with me. You know, this video goes out across all my social media platforms. So wherever you're watching it, feel free to private message me, direct message me, email me, whatever works for you. I love hearing from people, and I love getting back to them as well about some tips and the answers to the questions they might have. So have a great week, everybody, and thanks again for joining me. It's so lovely to be connected again with you all here on Gen Talks, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care and goodbye.